I know. Я знаю, де він.
Dusk falls, and the soldiers of the 127th Kharkiv Territorial Defence Brigade are preparing for a long night. They have the latest technology to locate and trace the trajectory of Moscow's Shahed drones targeting the city nearby, and a Soviet-era artillery piece to shoot them down. They don't need a direct hit. Exploding shrapnel can destroy the drone. Units like this shoot down 90% of Shaheds, but Russia fires so many drones, some get through, as well as missiles. So what about the weapons President Trump promised yesterday?
When's he going to give them? Hopefully soon. Talk is one thing, but when will it actually happen?
It's a hot night. The mosquitoes are out. The hours tick by. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The unit has been here for several hours. It's only fired that one time. Drones have passed by, but then they've moved away. They've been too far. We've seen some anti-aircraft fire on the horizon, but now they say a drone has passed overhead. They think it's spotted our location, so we have to move. But there's more than one front line in this war. A battle for technological advantage is also underway. Both Russians and Ukrainians are developing drones that can't be jammed, replacing radio signals with a fiber optic cable connected to the pilot. That one was developed in a laboratory in a hidden location in Kharkiv.
So this 10 kilometers, and this is ground control station and drone, and all of this working now.
What are the main technical challenges of working with the fiber optic cable on the drone?
The guys who already know how to fly on the radio drones actually didn't know how to fly on the optical ones. And you need to go slower, you need to go like lower, and you need to be careful when you're turning or going backwards.
Before the war, several of these guys were in a band. Anton was the drummer.
If you already play drums, it's easier to fly on these things because you need to do this, all of this like
so
different.
You've got the dexterity.
Yeah.
He shows me a Russian fiber optic drone that they captured and reverse engineered.
And we are trying to learn from them because they are like smart for now.
It's innovation in drone technology like this that's enabled the Ukrainians to hold back the Russian advance. It's transformed the battlefield. But it's not helping Ukraine win, because Russia is also innovating. And it's a much bigger armed force. It has more drones, more operators. And that's the problem Ukraine will always face. Which is why Ukraine is developing unmanned ground systems. Earlier this month, the 3rd Assault Brigade say they captured a Russian position without putting a single Ukrainian soldier's life at risk. Every weapon was remotely controlled.
This is Tesla.
What do you call it?
This is not Tesla.
This is a Tesla?
Tesla.
Does Elon Musk know?
No, it's Ukrainian.
The Ukrainian Tesla. Viktor Pavlov shows me the 3rd Assault Brigade workshop and training school. They're even developing a remote-controlled M2 Browning machine gun. The operator can be 2 kilometers back from the front line.
Designed and produced.
Designed and produced in Ukraine. But most of the robot systems are for logistics.
Equipment, ammunition, provision, food, water, material for shelter, and evacuation.
And you can use it for evacuation of casualties.
Yeah, of course.
They put the robots through their paces. Everything gets tested on the front line as well as in Kyiv, so they can adapt and change the technology in real time, in a real-life battlefield situation. But the question is, Can technology hold back the Russians with their far superior numbers?
They have more people than we. But their people are fighting for money, and we are fighting for our lives and our freedom. So.
Volunteers practice maneuvers with the latest drones. Ingenuity, innovation and patriotism has kept Ukraine in the fight against its much bigger enemy. But they need the heavier air defences and other weaponry that President Trump has promised. And they need it now.
Lindsey Hilsum reporting there. Well, alongside the weapons deal that Donald Trump announced yesterday was a warning of severe sanctions against Russia, but not just yet. The president gave a 50-day deadline, leading some from within his party to question whether he was being too generous to Vladimir Putin, who could step up his offensive in that window. Well, Andy Davis is outside the White House now. Andy, over to you.
Matt, the president left the White House within the last hour for a conference in Pittsburgh. But before he left, he was asked about those sanctions and that weapons deal for Ukraine. And also, interestingly, about an account in the Financial Times this morning, which quoted sources as saying that when President Trump had a private conversation with Zelensky 11 days ago, he asked him if Ukraine could hit Moscow if the US provided long-range weapons. Now, we put this to the White House earlier today, and they said they tried to claim it had been taken out of context, but then confirmed the line, saying President Trump was merely asking a question, not encouraging further killing. And Trump himself was asked about this a short while ago, and he was asked specifically, should Zelensky target Moscow?
Should Zelensky target Moscow? Should Zelensky target Moscow, sir?
No, he shouldn't target Moscow. Well, we're going to see what happens with President Putin. So far, I've been very disappointed with President Putin. I've solved a lot of wars in the last 3 months, but I haven't gotten this one yet.
Right, there we go. And what about this threat of more sanctions, severe sanctions, especially against Russia's allies, Andy?
Sanctioned by means of secondary tariffs on countries who continue to trade with Russia if those countries can't help Ukraine and Russia come to a deal within the next 50 days. Now, this idea of sanctions, of tariffs, secondary tariffs as sanctions, is currently going through the Senate at the moment. There's a bipartisan bill co-sponsored by Democrats and Republicans, but they are suggesting sanctions of tariffs up to 500%, much more draconian. And yesterday, Trump was asked, why 100% tariffs, as you suggest, when your Senate is pushing for 500%? And we asked some senators going into a Foreign Affairs congressional hearing this morning what they made of Trump's comments and what they thought of their sanctions bill now, particularly in light of Trump beginning to cast some doubt on their efficacy. This is what Lindsey Graham, Republican senator, had to say.
Senator, your thoughts on yesterday's weapons?
Very good step forward.
Is there going to be a need still for your bill, your sanctions bill?
Well, we think so, but we'll keep talking.
Is the sanctions bill going to get passed?
I hope.
Senator, the president seemed to cast doubt on the need for a bipartisan sanctions bill. Do you think it'll pass?
It has the support here, so the question is what will the leader do in terms of bringing it up, but it's got strong bipartisan support. I think it's necessary. I think it's a well-done bill, and I'm glad to support it.
I'm glad the European Union and their members are showing up and putting their money up and supporting Ukraine.
What do you think about the 50 days that the president has given Putin before?
I don't know why he gave him that many days. We all know who Putin is. Putin does want peace. From my standpoint, I think Trump's being very generous. I think we ought to have, ought to have sanctions. We ought to have tariffs immediately because he's not going to change. But I know the president's generous, and if there's anybody who can bring Putin to the table, it's Donald Trump.
So we wait to see whether sanctions might one day materialize, whether Trump really has the appetite for that. And of course, you are left with the inevitable question: if there are sanctions, how much of a difference will they really make in terms of deterring Putin from his long-term war aims?
Andy, outside the White House, thank you very much indeed. Joining me now from Washington, D.C. is Congressman Mike Quigley, who is co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus. Congressman, thanks very much for coming on the program. And if you just rushed back from the chamber after a vote to speak to us, you must be delighted, I would have thought, by Donald Trump's change of heart regarding his former best friend, Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's not done yet, so maybe the slip took the cup on the lip. So
you don't trust the president for a full change of heart?
Yeah, look, there's a mercurial president, as you've seen, if on tariffs alone, changing his mind overnight, and obviously this is a change. And I hope Republican congressional leadership hold him to it. And the fact is, there should be a partnership with our Ukrainian and European allies. There should be a shared cost. The implication when the president says paid 100% by Europe is that we don't have a stake in the game. That implies that Putin doesn't have aims beyond Ukraine. This is a moral imperative, but a strategic one as well for the United States.
Right.
But I'm hoping it goes forward.
So, well, on that point, I mean, there are these weapons that he's now, going to get the Europeans to buy from the Americans to then give to the Ukrainians. What kind of weapons are we talking about, and how soon will they be delivered?
Look, it could go very quickly if this moves as fast as it should. I've been to Poland 7 times at the facility, the camp where these arms are shipped through into Ukraine, 5 times to Ukraine since the war started. So look, if there's a will, there's a way to do it quickly. But it really depends on whether the president is steadfast in his beliefs here. But I believe once it gets into European hands, it will and can move very, very quickly.
Talking of quickly, I mean, he's given the Russians a 50-day deadline before severe sanctions are imposed on Russia's allies. I mean, 50 days is quite a long time in this war, isn't it, for getting stuff done, especially during a summer offensive?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, first of all, he gave Putin 2 weeks to do something to get back to the table, and that was 5-6 weeks later before the president took the next step. So it is a long time, and I believe with this president, it could be a longer time. I hope there's some urgency to move that deadline up. But the fact of the matter is, I think President Trump did not recognize you couldn't trust Putin. I mean, Glorioski, a bloody tyrant, can't be trusted. I believe the president said that he thought he could trust Putin, and he was disappointed. How anyone could be disappointed in Putin belies the fact that they just don't understand Putin in the first place.
And apparently it was the First Lady, Melania Trump, who had to point out to President Trump that civilian targets were being hit, and that's what might have changed his mind. Is that odd?
Look, First Ladies have a role in the past. They currently have a role, whatever it takes. The fact that roughly, 93 to 94% of Russian targets are civilian targets, it really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And we're hoping eventually that Putin is held accountable for his war crimes.
And very briefly, I mean, we could have avoided some of this if the previous president, a Democrat, Joe Biden, had sent the Ukrainians the long-range weapons they really wanted.
Well, let me put it this way. I think Joe Biden deserves an extraordinary amount of credit for unifying NATO at a difficult time and getting things as quickly as possible to Ukraine. If there's a problem with how he handled this, it was always first no and then okay yes when it came to a wide variety of weaponry and going beyond just defensive capabilities. And I was clearly out front disagreeing with the president at the time. So look, when President Zelensky said, "Help us win the war quickly," he had a point. Putin wins a war of attrition.
Got to leave it there. Mike Quigley, Congressman, thanks very much indeed.